Everyone, we are now combining everything we've talked about in the entire unit so far. We're going to be combining adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing fractions all in one problem through something called a complex fraction. Now, the problem looks scarier than it is, you guys. It's really not too bad. Okay, so all a complex fraction is, you guys, is a fraction divided by another fraction. So we got fractions on top of fractions. So lots of fractions over fractions over fractions. That's a complex fraction. Okay, so the way we deal this the steps say to make only one fraction in the numerator and denominator of the complex fraction. So when I'm talking about this all right here is the numerator of the complex fraction, and this all right here is the denominator of the entire complex fraction. Okay, so the first step, we want just one fraction in the numerator and one fraction in the denominator. Which if we look here, the denominator already has one fraction. Okay, it's just x plus 1 over x. So the denominator is good to go. But the numerator, we got a fraction plus a fraction. That is not allowed. We got to combine it into one fraction up top. So let's for right now only focus on the numerator, and the goal is to get it as one fraction. So I have 2 plus x, or 2 over x plus x over 4. So using the rules that we just talked about with adding fractions, we're going to do the same thing with only the numerator of our complex fraction. Okay, so the first step is to factor the denominators only, okay, which I can't really factor either of those, so we're good to go there. The next step is to find a common denominator. I'm going to abbreviate it as CD. So remember, with the common denominator, you guys, we have to grab one of everything we see in the denominators, which I see an x and I see a 4. So I'm going to grab an x and a 4, so that would be 4 times x, which equals 4x. So my common denominator is 4x. Okay, so now I must multiply my fractions by what they need to make a common denominator. So let's see here. I have this 2 over x. Let's see what it still needs. Okay, in my common denominator, I have a 4 and an x. This only has an x. Okay, so I still need the 4. So I'm going to multiply this bad boy by a 4. And remember, if I do it to the denominator, I got to do it to the top. Alright, now my second fraction, I have a 4 in the denominator, but I need a 4 and an x. So I'm missing the x. So I'm going to multiply that bad boy to the denominator, but remember, whatever you multiply to the denominator, you got to multiply to the top. Alright, let's start multiplying these bad boys together. So go straight across and straight across. So 2 times 4 gives me 8. And x times 4 gives me 4x. Holy hot dog, I'm in some common denominators. Plus, x times x gives me an x squared. And 4 times x gives me a 4x. Alright guys, if I can add these together, I will have one fraction in the numerator, since my denominator is already good to go. Okay, so now that I have a common denominator, I'm going to write those all over one fraction. So I'm going to have, let's see here, extend this down. Okay, so it's all over 4x, and then I have an 8 plus x squared. Okay, which typically when we add things together, we combine like terms starting with the highest exponent. Which my highest exponent is x squared and has nothing to combine to, so it's just x squared. Okay, and my 8 has nothing to combine to, so x squared plus 8. Okay, remember you guys, the goal is to try to factor the numerator and cross out any like terms if we have any. Well, I gotta burst your bubble, you guys. I know you love to factor all day, every day, just like I do, but this one we can't factor. I have two terms that we're adding, so the only way we can factor this is by a sum of cubes, which I cannot cube root an x squared. I can cube root an 8. 2 times 2 times 2 gives me 8, but I can't cube root an x squared. So I can't do any factoring techniques on this. So guess what, you guys? This is what's going to go in my numerator. Okay, so I'm going to bring this down. This is what's going to be my numerator now. So I got x squared plus 8 all over 4x over divided by x plus 1 over x. Alright, so that first step is done. So we have one fraction in the numerator and one fraction in the denominator now. Yay, denominator, numerator. So now it says rewrite the fraction using the division symbol. Okay, guys, so this is actually going to turn into a problem that you already know how to do. This is going to be, I'm going to write my numerator first. So it's going to be x squared plus 8 over 4x. This fraction, you guys, fractions are dividing. They're division. So it's this divided by this. So I'm going to rewrite my fraction symbol as a division symbol. So it's this divided by this. So divided by my denominator, which is x plus 1 over x. Okay, guys, if we know how to divide with two fractions, when we divide with fractions, that's the last step, we have to keep, change, flip. So this is going to turn into, I'm going to keep my first fraction, which is x squared plus 8 over 4x. I'm going to change my division to multiplication. And then I'm going to flip my second fraction, or find the reciprocal, which this would be x over x plus 1. Alright, and guys, this is already in factored form because I can't factor anything to the first power, which these three pieces are to the first power, and we already clarified that we cannot factor x squared plus 8. So the last step when we multiply two fractions together is to go straight across. Okay, so what this gives me, I'm going to bring it down here. What this gives me is x squared plus 8 times x over 4x times x plus 1. Now be careful, you guys. We can only cross things out in the numerator and the denominator if there is a multiplication symbol in between two terms. You cannot cross out things that have addition symbols in between. So like I can't cross out 1x squared and this x. I cannot do that. Okay, and I cannot cross out this x with that x because this one has addition in between. You can't pick and choose when you cannot pick and choose what you want to cross out when there's an addition sign in between. It's either all or nothing when you got addition. Okay, so these, you guys, the ones that were allowed to cross out, these two have a multiplication in between, so I could cross out this term or this term. Okay, the 4 and the x secretly have a multiplication symbol in between, and so does the x and the x plus 1. So I can cross out either the 4, the x, or the x plus 1. And up here, I can only cross out the x squared plus 8 or the x. Those are the only things I'm allowed to cross out. If there's an addition or subtraction in between two terms, you cannot cross out individual terms. Not allowed. Only there's multiplication. So let's see, can I simplify this down any further? What is in the numerator that I'm allowed to cross out that's also in the denominator? You guys are so smart. It is the x. Bam, bam, my x is gone. Okay, so all I'm left with is x squared plus 8 over 4 times x plus 1. And I cannot simplify any further. So this would be my final answer. Yay. Wasn't that fun, you guys? So complex fractions aren't as complicated probably as you thought from the start. Fun times, you guys. Fun times.